Hello and good morning. My name is Isaac Anak Lawrence from RK32. Today, my team and I will present for our project group, which is titled of the mortality rate in Singapore on 21st century, which is starting from 2010 until 2020. So let's begin. First and foremost, I would like to talk about our project background. Through our project, the information is gathered by the Singapore Department of Statistics, which is the National Statistical Office for the statistics on the Singapore economy and also resident populations. There are few number of objectives that we wanted to achieve throughout the project. The first is to determine the highest number of infant mortality rate by gender. Secondly, to investigate the number of mortality rate by neonatal case and perinatal case. The third is to determine the highest number of under 5 mortality rate by gender. And the lastly is to study the relationship between crude death rate and age standardized death rate per thousand residents. Next, for the data descriptions, our target is to achieve the objective within the dataset given of the resident in Singapore, which is from 2010 until 2020. From the dataset, it has a few number of variables that we can see, and also it is a qualitative data. All the data is based on Singapore Department Statistics, Immigration and Checkpoint Authority. Furthermore, the data from 1980 onwards pertain to resident populations of Singapore citizens and permanent residents.
Hello, my name is Heri Saging Andadangau. My matrix number is 191173082, and I'll be discussing about methods and analysis. So for the first graph here, we have the number of infant mortality rate by gender. For the green bar is the infant mortality rate for male, while the blue line is for the female. So from the data, we can see that the infant mortality rate for male remains between 1,700 to 2,250. The same cannot be said for the counterparts, which is like slowly decreased from 2010 until 2015, is drastically increased back on 2016, then decreasing back for the following years. Next, we have the number of mortality rate for perinatal and neonatal. So the data shows that the mortality rate, which is the orange color one, is 3 times higher than the neonatal, which is the blue ones. As we can see, the perinatal mortality rate is slowly decreasing throughout the decade, although it was slightly increased back on 2017, which is around this part. Neonatal mortality rate remains at average of 1,000 throughout the decade, because before decreased back to 750 at the end of the decade, which is around 2020. Next slide. And then we have the next graph, which is the under 5 mortality rate by gender. So the blue one is for the female parts and the orange one is the male parts. So the graph, from this graph, we can see that the mortality rate for under 5 females are lower than the males. And then it stayed around 2,500, but it increased dramatically on 2017 before proceeding to decrease back throughout the following years. Meanwhile, for male, it decreased throughout the decade here, like decreased throughout the decade, making it from 3,250 to 2,500, which is a good accomplishment. And for the next graph is the curve death rate and age standardized death rate. From the blue line, we can see this is a crude death rate, and orange line is age standardized death rate. We can see from the line chart above that the crude death rate is increasing slowly. Here, we can see that increasing slowly. Meanwhile, for the age standardized death rate is vice versa, which is decreasing slowly throughout the decades. So the difference between both cases are only around 1,000 at the start, here at the start of the decade, before reaching 2,000 differences at the end of the decade, which is around 2020. And that is for my part. I'll resume back to my teammates, Isaac. Thank you.
As for the conclusions, we will manage to find out the highest number of infant mortality rate by gender, number of mortality rate by the neonatal case and perinatal case, highest number of under 5 mortality rate by gender, the relationship between crude death rate and age standardized death rate per thousand residents. In this project also, we have used different methods of chart for each objective, which is such as a clustered column, clustered bar, area chart, and also line chart. Therefore, by using different type of graphical data presentation, we can see it precisely and it is easy to understand and also read. Hence, all of the objectives are accomplished. Thank you very much.